Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Dr. Bruce Oppenheimer, Professor Emeritus at Vanderbilt University and an expert on congressional affairs. Dr. Oppenheimer, the Congress remains so divided and polarized. It's still struggling in the aftermath of what happened January 6th with the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Senate Republicans blocked a bipartisan commission to investigate what happened. House Republicans don't like it, but they can't stop a House Select Committee that's been put together by Speaker Pelosi for also looking into the matter. Why are the GOP so opposed to this? Why are some Republicans acting like nothing happened, saying this was just a few tourists that got out of control?
Well, in part, I think they're speaking to part of their base. In part, they think it has electoral payoff. In part, they think that it provides a way of insulating Donald Trump and the party as they move ahead. After all, you really don't want a hearing going on as you lead up to the 2022 election, which will be seemingly critical of your party and what that party has done. On the other hand, the failure to cooperate with it and the reaction of the Democrats potentially threatens the legitimacy of what this committee does. And so the onus on the Democrats now is to make sure, if it is to be a successful set of investigations, that it appear legitimate and not just an effort to go after Donald Trump.
The makeup of the Select Committee's already created quite a political food fight this past week up on the Hill. Speaker Pelosi appointed one GOP member, Liz Cheney, who used to be in the Republican leadership in the House. She voted to impeach President Trump, so she's not in that leadership anymore. But the 5 other members that Speaker Pelosi put on were also managers who presented the second impeachment case against Donald Trump in the Senate. You talked about having some legitimacy on that committee. She's already got that problem, and the Republicans are pushing back.
Yes, they are pushing back, and with the minority leader saying that the Republican members that he's appointed, because she vetoed 2 of them, will not participate. My sense is that the saving grace for Pelosi on this was that, and I'm sure this was set up ahead of time, was that Liz Cheney then defended Pelosi's decision not to put a couple of the Republicans on the committee.
Speaker Pelosi also talking about adding some of the Republicans of her own, but they also have backgrounds of being anti-Trump. If this entire body, the entire committee, special select committee, looks like they're anti-Trump, is it going to undermine their ability to come up with recommendations that will actually be considered to be legitimate?
I think in the end, only a very small part of this committee's recommendations and findings will deal with Trump himself. And I think that it will deal with a range to the degree that they can focus on a range of other things rather than the former president. That will add to legitimacy of their findings.
A lot of what seemed to motivate what happened on Capitol Hill January 6th was the big lie that people say President Trump did, of saying he actually was cheated out of the election, that Joe Biden was not legitimately elected. That continues to be a strong polling number, with people agreeing with that kind of idea in polling now 6 months later. Have you ever seen a phenomenon like this where there's no necessarily evidence to prove any of this, but people still believe that something happened that was wrong, but there's no evidence that it actually did happen?
No. The simple answer is no. But I think those numbers are starting to change gradually, and I think the focus of attention will gradually move away from that. You are seeing some Republican leaders in the country, a few more, wanting to move away from that. The other thing I think that will occur is that you're going to see people starting to maneuver to try and win the Republican 2024 presidential nomination. They don't want to have to wait for Trump to leave the scene for their political futures to move ahead.
So they won't stay frozen anymore. A lot of people feel like Trump talking about possibly running, he's going not. They have not jumped out in front for fear he'll come out against them. You think that's not going to happen anymore? You think someone won't wait forever? They'll go ahead and say, I'm going to run regardless.
There are people who are politically ambitious who do not want to have to wait till 2028 to try and run for president.
We had National Congressman Jim Cooper on just recently. There's a lot of, looked like bad blood between congressmen up there, particularly after what happened on January 6th. He said that may be what it looks like when the TV cameras are on and the microphones and the notepads are out with reporters. But that among members, they still seem to be getting along pretty well behind the scenes. Is that what you're hearing when you talk to people in Washington?
I think that's generally true, although it's still that the close relationships that might have existed across the aisle in earlier generations don't really exist to the same degree anymore. And so it may be that they are cordial, that they are professional in dealing with each other, but I don't think that you see the same cross-partisan close friendships existing anymore.
Brief answer to a final question. A lot of people think Congress is just broken. Its rules so arcane and everything else. If it is broken, how should it be fixed?
Wow. It strikes me that a lot of the fixing has to do with what happens in elections. And one of the things that we've gone through over the past, since 1994, one of the things we've gone through is neither party has been able to establish firm control, meaning that the fight is always for the next election. And I think until you get one party winning a sweeping landslide, you're not going to see change.
Dr. Oppenheimer, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We appreciate your insights and wisdom.
Sure. Thank you. Good to be with you.
That's Inside Politics this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. Hope you can, if you need more politics in the meantime, go to the NewsChannel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. New commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.